What's happening guys, King GBL here, and welcome back to a brand new Ultra League video. Today we're going to be showcasing some battles sent into the channel by our good friend, Jamie Finn. Jamie, he's actually sick at the minute, so make sure you guys do wish him well in the comments down below. Jamie has sent us in his signature Ultra League team with Poliwrath, Double Dark Poison. Poliwrath with the newly buffed Scald, and of course the Icy Wind edition is going to be a lot stronger. We have Drapion with Poison Sting, Sludge Bomb and Crunch. Jamie does like Sludge Bomb for that nuke potential. And Shadow Skuntank with Poison Jab, Flamethrower for the extra steel coverage, and Crunch. Really strong team last season, and since the Ultra League meta has changed quite a lot, we have maybe some Talonflames running around. Steelix is basically out of the meta. No more Steelix is spamming debuffs and taking switch advantage for teams, which was really a big problem for this line. This team is looking very strong. We're going to have a look today to see if this is one of the best Poliwrath teams still. And yeah, let's hop on into the battles. Guys, before we do, please drop a like in the video, subscribe. The videos have been doing absolutely shite this week, so all likes and comments definitely help out a lot. And of course, subscribe to the channel, and do check out Jamie Finn, a fantastic content creator. I'll put a link for him in the top right and in the description down below. He mainly uses Shadow Pokemon and a lot of spicy teams, so I think you guys will definitely enjoy it there, and personally, one of my favorite commentators in Go Battle League. But anyway guys, we have an interesting matchup here. A pretty negative typing matchup, of course, Gliscor with the ground type, resisting the poison jabs, but you're about to see here that Skuntank can put in the work. We get the Crunch debuff, and at this point, oh, the opponent's going for Night Slash base. It's pretty unfortunate. But actually, at this range, Night Slash would all but take out. Looks like we're going to commit the second shield and look to go for another Crunch. We should be in quite a decent position here. We're getting to this next Crunch. The opponent's getting super low. And at this point, they're debuffed. So we can probably actually look to come in and counter them with Poly. Yeah, there should be one counter from KO. Really fun team by the opponent, and we're going to hop into the next one. Poliwrath versus Poliwrath. We have a little bit of Shadow versus Purified action here. Who will win? The opponent goes for the move first. Typically, whenever I played this match in the Great League, whoever gets off the first Icy Wind wins this matchup. Basically, the opponent's going to go for a big swap out to Cresselia on Confusion of all things. It takes 5 Confusions to get to the Moonblast here, so we will outpace to the Crunch. This Crunch, it's definitely not going to KO the Cresselia. It does absolutely chunk. Skuntank hits like an absolute truck. The opponent's going to go for most likely a Moonblast, and that will get us decently low, but we should just outpace the Crunches here. They're not going to be able to Confusion us the whole way down, and we're going to go for a massive overfarm and go for the CMP on another potential Moonblast. If the opponent shields here, I think they're not going to be able to get off another move. They do actually shield, and it almost KOs for the shield. The opponent is looking to take switch. Jamie's happy enough with this at this point. Knowing that the opponent has a Poly of their own, we can come in, get a Poison Sting through with Drapion, and look to go for a big Sludge Bomb on the Poly. The opponent does come in with Poly. Does that indicate that they have something weak in the back? Poliwrath has a fairly decent matchup against Drapion. However, if you're down a shield, this can be looking very rough. We go for the Icy Wind combo wombo, chicken snack box on a Coke, buy one, get one free. The opponent shields that up as well, which is quite interesting. I think we just counter this down at this stage. We would live an Icy Wind. The opponent actually goes for a Scald, which would have done a lot. And in comes Crocodile Rock. This flaming alligator is about to get turned into a pair of boots. Poliwrath's going to have its wicked way with it. A Scald is about 90% to it, and yeah, we can basically just counter it the whole way down. Back in comes Poliwrath, and we can counter that down as well. Good games well played. Now this to me right here is probably the most interesting matchup for Poliwrath. You actually beat Giratina with Poliwrath now. Icy Wind with all the debuffs. I think if they're in Dragon Breath, they still win. But with the debuffs and the opponent swaps out, yeah, so that sort of indicates that the opponent knows it's not actually a good match for Giratina anymore. With the Icy Winds and the debuffs, that gets very close. We could have some heavy damage on the Poliwrath, and I think we're most likely going to probably farm this thing the whole way down. The opponent is most likely going to go for Icy Wind, but they actually do go for Scald. Most of them probably would go for Icy Wind in that situation. We're going to go for the Crunch. I think Jamie, had it been an Icy Wind, he might have went for more of an overfarm, but of course if they get to another Scald, it's going to be looking tricky, and we do want to keep alignment here if possible. We would prefer to get our Drapion, I think, on the Giratina, and in comes the flaming Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death. They do farm us the whole way down there, unfortunately, but Poliwrath is going to put in some work. We're actually going to go for a no shield here. Is this a flame charge? The opponent goes for the flame charge, an amazing call, and we're going to go for the Scald here. The opponent would definitely live an Icy Wind, so you're either going to get the 50% chance of a debuff, which we don't get here unfortunately, or of course we do get the knockout. We get the shield off the opponent, and in comes Drapion. The opponent goes for yet another flame charge, which would do an absolute ton of damage at this range. Shadow Drapion with a boosted flame charge from the Kentucky Fried Chicken. It would not be pretty. They come back in with Giratina. I think at this point, guys, I think we probably do need to make some sort of a catch this game. The opponent's going to go for Dragon Claw number 1. The one good thing here is it's going to be very difficult for the opponent to farm down. We're going to look to go for CMP here on the Crunch on the next Dragon Claw. We really need a fat debuff here, I think. Actually, no, never mind. We don't need anything. We don't need anything. 2 Crunches handily KO. That's done an absolute ton of damage, and the opponent will be able to get off another move here. Now, I think we still need to make a catch at this point. This is looking a little bit tricky. The opponent is overfarmed a little bit. We do go for a beautiful catch. You can see it coming a mile away. Jamie Finn is always on track with the energy, and we do make a very nice catch, and I think that's going to be very vital. We were not going to outpace the Gira. The opponent comes in with the Talonflame, hoping to catch the move. They end up catching the Poison Sting down, and that's good games. Poliwrath versus Tapu Fini. Now, believe it or not, you've got 2 poisons, right? So you swap into one of your poisons. That's pretty obvious, right? ABB team, you've got 2 poisons, you swap into it. But if Poliwrath ever gets stuck on that Pokemon, it's not even that bad, especially with Icy Wind. It wasn't even bad last season with Scald, where you got the 30% chance of the debuff. But this season with Icy Wind, that match is not that bad for Poliwrath. We do go for a safe swap, and in comes a Gliscor. Quite an interesting team so far. They have a ground type in the back to, of course, deal with any potential electrics. So we might have another Pokemon in the back that is going to perform well against electric and grass. The opponent takes switch advantage, however we do take a shield, which I think is going to be huge here. I think up a shield, Poliwrath is going to be able to deal with this. Now we're going to call that this is just a Night Slash. The opponent goes for the Earthquake. They YOLO it on through. I think we're putting the trust into Skuntank with 2 shields. The Gliscor is getting super low, so most likely they'll aggro swap straight out, and they come into a Galissapod. This is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, we just absolutely shield up this first move here. Most likely, yeah. The opponent goes for Aerialist, kind of annoying, but all we need to do is get to back-to-back crunches here. This won't quite KO, and we most likely will have to shield a potential liquidation off the opponent. I think as long as we don't get a debuff, we might be in a decent position here. These poison jabs are going to absolutely tear through the Tapu Fini. The one thing we will have to watch out for is, of course, the catch. We're going to go straight for this move, because this has the potential to debuff the opponent. It's going to take them a lot of turns. The opponent lets that through. I think that's a big mistake. Can we jab it the whole way down? We jab it the whole way down. The opponent was just getting to the Moonblast, and we jab down the Gliscor as well. Even though it's resisted crunch, you have to shield it, and in comes Tapu Fini once again. We're going to go straight into Drapion, and the opponent comes into Charizard behind an energy. This is not that great for Charizard, to be honest. These crunches are going to absolutely chunk. This is a non-shadow Charizard, so they can pretty comfortably live the move. And I think we're going to call a bait here. Charizards do love going for that Dragon Claw, and I absolutely love that call. We're going to go for another crunch. We're not minding anything that this Charizard's doing. And at the very least, guys, we're going to get switch advantage or shield advantage. Knowing Jimmy, he loves to take the shield, and this is probably just another Dragon Claw. The opponent is just baiting like crazy here. The opponent will get some extra farm, however, we will be able to counter this time with Poly. Perhaps shield once, counter it the whole way down. We are actually just going to let this go as well, because of course there's a Tapu Fini. We're basically sacrificing the Poly at this stage. In comes Cresselia, and in comes Skuntank. Once again, the world is on Skuntank's shoulders here. The opponent should not really shield this crunch, it is a resisted move, and we're really just hoping for the debuff. Now, a Surf from Tapu Fini probably does about the same as a Moonblast, so you're happy enough to shield this up, right? Not allow the opponent to get you too low, and we should be able to commit to the entire jab down. Skuntank in the back. Shadow is just putting an absolute ton of work. I don't think we've had a single debuff yet, so if we did get one here, it would be kind of nice. Cresselia is quite thick. The opponent invests their last shield, and we're going to look to probably, yeah, going ahead and shield up the potential Moonblast here. Yep, the opponent goes straight forward, so that's going to make this a little bit more straightforward. We do need to go for a crunch here. I think the opponent will be getting to the move quite shortly here. So once again, this might come down to catching a move. Can we time this perfectly? We do time it perfectly, of course. Now, the only tricky thing is if the opponent makes a perfect undercharge here, which they do not, it could have been a little bit awkward. Because we didn't quite have the crunch. The opponent would have had to do a picture perfect undercharge. They weren't able to make it. We had pace to the crunch. And that's going to be another good game well played. So by the looks of things, guys, we're going 5-0 in this first set. The team seems to be working pretty well. And we've not seen, of course, a single steelix. And I've noticed Virizian's usage has been quite low from what I've seen so far of the Ultra League. Now in comes Cobalion, an extremely dominant matchup for Poly, and in comes Giratina. We go straight into our Drapion. If you leave it a little bit too late, actually this is on Dragon Breath, so this can get a little bit awkward. Yeah, so 2 crunches does KO. However, with the Dragon Claws and the extra damage, this match can get a little bit awkward. I think at this point, we should be able to just about 2-shot it. We're going to look to go for CMP on the next Dragon Claw. It's basically the same counts as Dragonite, 12 turns to the move. The opponent's going to go for an overfarm, and I think at this point, guys, the opponent's going to hard commit for switch advantage. Dragon Breath Gira is kind of here to be able to beat these sort of backlines. You can pretty much Dragon Breath through the Dark types, you can Dragon Breath through an Obstagoon, you can get through a Drapion, and the opponent looks to be not committing to the farm down. They go for an aggro swap into Cresselia for whatever reason. They commit both shields and then they give up switch. They come into Cresselia with Confusion, which is quite interesting. That's the second time we're seeing this. Is Confusion the play in the current meta? Because of course we have Talonflames now quite a lot. We have a lot of Charizards as always. I have seen some future side Cresselias, which does make a lot of sense. We're going to go for a massive overfarm and actually farm it the whole way down and come out with a move. This is going to basically hit whatever comes in. We go for the Flamethrower. Nice patience to see which Pokemon came in. Boom. We toast the Cobalion here, and we're going to look to come in and counter it down with Poliwrath. We can basically eat any move we want to throw here. Unless they learned Thunderbolt yesterday, I think we should live any move. Secret Sword, absolutely free, and yeah, in comes the Icy Wind. And you're about to see this does quite a lot of damage to Giratina, especially from a Shadow Poliwrath. Takes it out from that range. We counter down the Cobalion, and that's good games well played. Now we have a Shadow Zapdos in the skies, one of Jamie Finn's favourite Pokemon. They're probably going to go for a Drill Peck. We do go for the move straight away here, basically to force a shield off the opponent. If they want to stay in and force a shield off us, we at the very least want to get one off them. So the opponent's going to go for a potential Thunderbolt. We're going to call it, it's just a Drill Peck, and Jamie knows his Pokemon very well. We do love that move. And in comes, I'm not sure what that was, maybe a Blastoise? Oh no, it was a Politoed. I just seen the water typing in the top right. By the way, guys, I highly recommend checking out Jamie's recent video with Politoed in the Great League. That Pokemon actually put in a lot of work with Scald, so definitely recommend checking that one out. But the opponent does farm us down here, or of course they do go for the Weather Ball. And we're going to come in with the Poly, the superior Poly. We're going to punch this the whole way down. Now the opponent built all the way up to the Earthquake. Do they actually have it here? They do have the Blizzard, okay. So they go for the harder hitting move, but Big Poly's just going to punch it the whole way down. Let's see what they come back in with. They come in with, is that a Clefable? Is that a, no, not a Clefable. Is that a Wigglytuff? What am I seeing here? It is a Wigglytuff. It's a Best Body Wigglytuff. And in comes Zapdos. Quite an interesting team by the opponent. We do go for this move on CMP. We're basically just happy to get rid of this thing as soon as possible, right? We're going to 2-shield through this thing. There's no way we're going to let the Wigglytuff run free in the back. The opponent definitely will shield this, knowing that they're basically screwed if the Skuntank gets a whiff of their Wigglytuff in the back. But yeah, unfortunately, Shadow Zapdos, very, very hard-hitting Pokemon. But it's as glassy as it is hard-hitting, and this Wigglytuff is about to get farmed the whole way down. Good games well played. We CMP the top left. We CMP the top left and go for the Flamethrower. Go for the 1 HP BM, love that. Suicune coming up in the next match. Looks like, oh okay, so Jamie actually did mention this, the opponent was lagging or something, so he allowed them to catch up. So good sportsmanship here. I definitely would have just kept countering if it was me personally. Suicune, another Pokemon that got Scald this season. We're going to see what it's capable of. They do actually end up banking a bunch of energy and coming into their Stunfisk. So we're ahead by a couple of poison jabs here, quite a lot of poison jabs in fact, and we should be able to get off this next crunch. We're going to try and go for the CMP in the Earthquake. The opponent is going for an Overfarm, and I think most likely we'll look to YOLO off the move. Now at this point, if you shield the Earthquake, you basically outpace. The opponent throws 1 before the move, nice counting by the opponent, and I think this is almost guaranteed to be an Earthquake, it is. The opponent goes straight for it, and I think we're super happy to come in with Poliwrath and just get an absolute massive farm down here. Does the opponent make to another Earthquake? Yeah, they do. So we're going to go ahead and respect it. This will do an absolute ton of damage. The Suicune is basically almost dead at this point, and if we can just counter that down, they come in with a Jelly, that's unfortunate. This is, oh, so awkward. We do have the Skuntank for it, but they're up a shield, and up a shield, Jelly's actually not that bad against Skuntank. Surf coming through, as you can see. About 3 Surfs will KO the Skuntank, or if it gets into like the 2-shield scenario, probably 1 Surf plus Hex's KOs. This is a little bit awkward. We cannot afford to shield this move, unfortunately, because the Suicune has an absolute ton of energy. The opponent now goes for the Snipe, which is quite interesting. It looks like we're going to trust in Poly. Oh, they're getting off another move. Yeah, once again, we cannot afford to shield this move. It is just another Scald. The opponent does not get the debuff, thankfully, and we're in the 1-to-1s. With 100 energy versus Jellicent, we're going to go for Scald number 1. Does the opponent respect the move? Most likely not, right? But you're seeing, like, this is chipping away. This is definitely chipping away. We do not get the Scald debuff on the first occasion. I don't think it even makes a difference if we get the debuff or not, to be honest with you. We have to call it this as a Surf, I think. I think that's our only win con here. The opponent is going for the Surf. That's an amazing call. I think Jamie's seen it as well. Like, if they go Shadow Ball, you might be able to outpace or whatever, but that was a fantastic call. You had to make it. And yeah, I think the opponent's basically screwed at this point. Jamie's like, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself through the Shadow Ball. The opponent did not enjoy themselves. They're throwing a million Surfs, but they do get to a last second one. That's so unfortunate, guys. That is super, super unfortunate. I think we played the last game about as well as we can. And in comes Swampert, fantastic lead for Poliwrath. The opponent looks to be building up to the Earthquake. I think, okay, we're gonna just let this through. I would probably just shield this. Okay, they go for Sludge Wave. They go for Sludge Wave. Quite interesting here. So we know that this is not an Earthquake, so they don't have the one-shot potential in our backline. Looks like we're going to counter it the whole way down. And we'll see what the opponent wants to come in with. They come in with a Poly of their own. So they're already ABA weak to Venusaur. Not that Venusaur is a super common pick or anything, but they're ABA weak to Grass nonetheless. And we do go for a safe swap. If you think about why that might be, why would Jamie want to safe swap in this situation, right? They have a Swampert lead. Very negative matchup for Swampert. And then they come into their own Poliwrath. So that indicates to me that they don't have an answer to Poliwrath in the back. So just by preserving it, even with 20% HP, it could be a Sand Slash, could be something that's weak to counter, right? These counters that we might be able to get through, or the potential like Icy Wind or Scald, could be absolutely vital for this match. Now the opponent is going to get a massive farm down. Do we decide to sack the Poly? No, we come into the Skuntank. I think Jamie might be reading the same thing, that, you know, if they're staying in with Swampert, coming in with their own Poly, they're probably a little bit weak to it. We're going to let the second move through. It could be potentially Scald. It is just another Icy Wind. And at this point, guys, we should be able to go for a catch on the Poly. Okay. Okay, I like it. I like it. Once again, we're putting the hopes and dreams into the Skuntank. Now, if it is like a Cobalion, it is a Charizard, so that makes sense, right? Something that is weak to Poliwrath. But if it was like a Cobalion, or in this case a Charizard, These crunches just absolutely tear through it. We're going to respect any move they throw. They still have a low health Poly. I think, you know, if this was just Skuntank versus Charizard, Jamie would probably let it go if he thinks he lives it, but we do have to take care of the Poly here still, unfortunately. We're going to jab it the whole way down, and that's going to be good games well played. Escavalier, pretty decent lead. We'll see what the opponent wants to do. They need to have some sort of answer to counter in the back. They need some sort of an answer to fire. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like an Ampharos back there, perhaps a Lantern. We no shield the Acid Spray. Acid Spray, easily the most annoying thing you can possibly shield in this game. This looks like it's pretty neutral with the Acid Spray debuff. We're actually sort of making this quite close, and in comes Tapu Fini. They get a couple of water guns for him. We're going to come straight into our Skuntank. We're going to rip this thing to shreds. We're going to go for the crunch and hope to get the debuff, which might prevent them from getting to the Moonblast. Unfortunately, no debuff again, and actually I think we are going to have to shield up a potential Moonblast anyway. So maybe they just get it off no matter what. We farm it the whole way down, and the opponent has a move on the Escavalier. Now, we've seen one Acid Spray. Is there any reason to Acid Spray here? I don't think so. We're happy enough to let this go. Get the farm back in Poliwrath once again, but we're actually coming in for an aggressive Sting down with Drapion, or actually we're going to go for the crunch in this case. I thought we might have been going for an aggressive Shield 1 Sting down. The opponent's actually shielding and we go for the catch. Now, I think we realize that we do have a lot of energy here, so we can look to basically, shield the Acid Spray. Super annoying, as I mentioned, about the worst thing you can possibly shield. However, I think it's good that we shielded it because in comes Drapion, in comes Mach, and we do get a lot of damage through. We even get off a last second Icy Wind, and this is basically curtains for the opponent. We still have a very, very healthy Drapion. The opponent only typically knows Dark Pulse and Acid Spray, and the opponent top left as soon as they see the Drapion come back in. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and big shout out to Jamie Finn for sending in these fun battles. This team is looking very, very strong, and I think if you're looking to make a bit of a climb in the Ultra League, there aren't many better teams with Poliwrath that you can run in the Ultra League. This was the top performing team last season, and with good reason. Poly double Dark Poison, very, very strong line. You basically cover the weaknesses very well. Your backline's quite weak to steel. Poliwrath absolutely destroys it. Poliwrath, of course, is weak to Charm, weak to Grass. Your backline covers that very well. So very, very strong and balanced team, and I think it's well worth a try this season. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Once again, thank you very much to Jamie. Feel free to check out his channel in the description down below. I'll even put it at the end. You can see a little circle here. Go click his name. Drop a sub to him. Subscribe to me if you haven't already. And thank you very much for watching.